In 2021, and to be quite honest, several years before that, I struggle with creating content. In fact, I struggle with creating at all. So into 2022, I decided I needed to make this more playful, take the heaviness out of it, take the have to out of it. And I've decided to gamify creation in 2022. So in this video, I'm going to share with you why I'm doing this, how I'm doing it, and maybe you'll take some insights from this to create your own gamification of content creation in your business into 2022. I would say that a lot of this started with reading Mike Michalowicz's book, Clockwork. So there's one really important and key insight in this book, and it's this concept of the queen bee role. So when you think about a beehive, each bee within the hive has two functions. The first one is to protect the queen bee, and the second one is whatever their primary task is. So this could be a worker bee, this could be defending the colony, this could be raising the larvae, whatever. What Mike Michalowicz has done in this book is overlay this understanding with how entrepreneurs can operate within their business most efficiently and for the highest success. So the idea is that each business has its own queen bee role, which needs to be protected, needs to be defended at all costs before anything else is attended to. So admin tasks, answering emails, answering comments on Instagram posts, whatever you can think of as tasks that you're doing within your business. Always, primarily, your queen bee role is protected, just like in a hive, in a beehive, every other bee ensures that the queen bee continues making eggs so that the colony, the beehive, can grow and thrive. What Mike Michalowicz has you do in Clockwork is to write out a list of all of the tasks that you do in your business, and then cut them down, and then cut them down, and then cut them down until you arrive at the one primary thing that you do, where if you stopped doing it or you stopped placing attention on it, your business would start to decrease. So I landed on a toss-up between two things. The first one being active reach out to people in my network. So, you know, actively DMing people, actively commenting on people's posts and seeing where I can serve them and help them, at a certain point, inviting them into a call where I can help them and serve them. And some of those people go on to be clients and others don't, or they go on to be clients at a later stage. But essentially that's what I've found, when I dedicate time to it, leads to an increase in my business. And the second thing that was a toss-up in the queen bee role was conversion focused content. So with where I'm heading in my creative process and how I want to show up in my business and also just in life, is to be less of an inactive reach out and being an active invite of people, and being more the invite itself. So being here, sharing and inviting people in to my world to experience whatever transformation is aligned at that point through being that invitation. So I decided and landed on conversion focused content as my queen bee role. So I would encourage you, well, first of all, to read Mike Michalowicz's book or listen to an audio, and also to decide what your queen bee role is in your business. For much of 2021, and actually to be honest also before, I have been engaging with the feminine rising, the feminine unfolding, magnetism, your beingness, calling in clients, all this sort of stuff. And quite honestly, I just find that it doesn't really work for me. You know, being in the moment, tuning into the body, being guided in the moment to create, for me, at least right now, it makes me feel very unsafe. It makes me feel quite chaotic and like I don't really have a focus. It leads to me kind of going into my head and not actually really doing the thing, because I'm like, do I feel like I want to? Maybe I don't feel like I want to. Maybe I should. And then before I know it, I just haven't done anything. So what this process is helping me do is actually lean more into play, which is it's kind of like structured play, I suppose you might say, when you're gamifying content in this way. So that's kind of allowing me to lean more into this feminine, rising, unfolding way of being, which I still am doing and want to do, without it putting too much pressure on it having to meet my basic needs, and more having it be this kind of like side thing that I'm doing and experimenting with while I'm doing and behaving and being more in a way that helps me lean into my strength. So if you've been on this kind of feminine, rising, beingness state, being the invitation, magnetism journey in the way I have, you may find that this way of gamifying things might be a good interim step while you're flowing into that state of being on a more ongoing moment-to-moment basis, and actually allowing it to inform and help you create your decisions within your business. And another big reason why I'm gamifying creation is that I find content creation is a little bit like, oh, I have to do it. And I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what can I create today? What would be a thing? You know, I just basically go into my head completely, and I find that it takes all of the pleasure out of it. It takes all the fun. I can end up kind of pushing. It makes me kind of want to force my own personal karmic journey around visibility and creation, which I'm on, as all of us are, kind of in my own way. So, you know, it allows me, when I'm gamifying in this way, it's allowing me to move through that process kind of simultaneously, but also still taking action and creating content, and not just meditating non-stop to come to a place where I feel confident and ready and in a place where I can be totally visible and share my truth and be vulnerable, and all of the things that go on to inspirational cards. So that's kind of why I'm doing it. So if you can relate to any of those, maybe you might find that this process is particularly helpful for you. And I just want to point out that this is one tool. I'm not suggesting that it's the tool. I'm not suggesting that this is the way to do it, and if anyone wants to create content, this is the only way to do it. No, test it, try it, listen to this video. If it just doesn't sound like it's going to work for you, don't do it. If it does, play, experiment, shift, change, do with it what you will, and maybe it might help you, and maybe something else works better for you. Okay, so this is how the game works for 2022 gamifying content creation. My goal for 2022 is to earn, that was like a really lame drum, but anyway, it's to earn 11,000 creation points. What do 11,000 creation points mean? Okay, well, let me share with you. Welcome to my content creation whiteboard. So this is what I'm referring to each day with, see, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, total, the week commencing up here. And then we've got what type of content it is across the top here. So I'll read these out to you. So that's IG story, IG post, so Instagram post, Instagram reel, a repurposed Instagram to YouTube video, an email to my email list, and a YouTube video. And then along the top, you've got the creation point score for each one of these pieces of content. So 1 point for an IG story, 15 points for an Instagram post, 25 points for an Instagram reel, for a repurposed Instagram reel to YouTube, 25 points, an email to my email list, 40 points, and a YouTube video right up there at 50 points. So then you can see each day that goes by, and for each piece of content that I create, I'll write in here how much I'm scored. So let's say on Thursday I do an Instagram reel, I'm like, yay, 25 points. And then on Friday I send an email to my list, I'm like, woohoo, 40 points. And then at the end of the week, I'll tally everything up. So that's along here, add it all up. This size, it would be 40, 50, 60, 5, 75, 76, 77, 78 points. I hope that that's correct. So that would be my total score for this week. What are the rules of play as I'm gathering my content creation points? this year. It's not possible for me to earn any more than 50 points on any one weekday. This I've created as a rule because knowing that I have the workhorse mind, which from a shamanic perspective means that I keep going and going and going and going and going and going, and then eventually I just peter out and just burn out completely and disappear from the map for like months. So to avoid that happening, I'm putting an upper limit on how many points that I can earn in any one day. So I could post all the things, I could do all of the Instagram stories, I could do the YouTube video, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to earn more than 50 points. So it's going to deter me from overdoing it. So one of those 50 points days per week has to come from YouTube, or I forfeit 1 day's points per week. So I get to choose which day that I forfeit, and I get a penalty of 75 points. So I lose 75 points. Now, the reason why I put this rule in place is because I really want to focus on building my YouTube channel. So I want to really put myself off any action that's going to lead to me not creating a YouTube video each week. So this will hopefully help me prioritize the creation area that I most want to lean into for this year. On the weekend, I can earn no more than 25 points. So this is to make sure that I don't, again, go into workhorse mind and end up just working 7 days a week, creating, thinking about how I can create. Rather on the weekend, it's a bit more lenient so that I can maybe just post a few stories, maybe do one Instagram post. Just it tends to be 2 days of light posting. Again, this is just to ensure that I don't end up burning out. The total possible points per week that I can earn is 300 points, and this includes scheduled posts, and I have a minimum points per day of 10, which is the equivalent of 10 Instagram stories. If I don't achieve the 10-point minimum, then I have to do 50 squats. So I kind of win whether or not I do the posting, but I still kind of don't want to do 50 squats. But if I do have to do 50 squats, at least I will have a really tight behind by the end of the year. You look at this in total, the absolute maximum points, if I was gonna go all in and completely max everything out that's totally possible in this framework for the year, would be 15,000 points. Minimum points that I could get, which would equate to 10 Instagram story posts per day and 1 YouTube video per week, would be around 6,150 points. So an absolute maximum of 15,000 points and an absolute minimum of 6,160 points. So I calculated to land roughly in the middle, but on the higher end of this. My aim for the year is going to be 11,000 creation points. 11,000 points equates to roughly 25 creation points per day. So to give you an idea, based on the framework of what this looks like, is 1 Instagram post, which is 15 points, plus 10 Instagram stories equals a total of 25 creation points. Or it might look like just 1 Instagram reel, which is 25 points. Then let's say on one day I create a YouTube video which is 50 points, which is obviously well above my 25-point average for each day. Then that means I can afford on the weekend to do, say, just 10 Instagram stories and nothing else. So I'm hoping more or less on average that will even out, so that on some days I have slightly more and other days I do slightly less. So on average that will hopefully equate to around 11,000 creation points for the whole year. Okay, so 11,000 creation points. That's very exciting, but what does it actually mean? What do I win if I actually create in this way? I've come up with a reward system that I reflect on each Monday. If I reach the creation point minimum for the week, then these are some of the rewards that I'm going to be treating myself to. A 1-hour massage from my husband, wins. A bubble bath going on a coffee tour, a day out in nature. We go out on a food shop, Mike will choose a meal and he is going to cook it himself, and then we have a really nice dinner, which I haven't had to have any input in. I get to choose a movie that we get to watch, and we get to go for a coffee in a coffee shop of my choice. So that's if I reach my weekly reward quota. If I meet my monthly creation quota, then I'll give myself my monthly reward. And here are some of my monthly rewards to give you some inspiration if you decide to gamify creation yourself this year. Slobby day, so I get to watch films, video games, create my den, just generally like be a total slob for a day. I get to buy a book, I get to buy a new computer game, I will get a really nice takeaway meal, I will get a pedicure or a manicure, I'll go for a full day out in a town that's a bit further away from my house, so in a bit of an exploration tour. We'll go away camping, we'll go for a nice meal at a restaurant or pub, I'll maybe go for a yoga trip for a day. I might get my eyelashes or eyebrows done, I'll go for a spa day, or I'll get some kind of treat for the home, so something that I can decorate the home with in some way. So those are my monthly rewards if I reach my monthly quota, which is around 917 points. Now I also have the same thing for a quarterly reward. So if I manage to meet my quarterly content creation points quota, then these are some of the rewards that I will choose from. Now I only get to choose one, by the way, that's one thing I forgot to say. Only one of these rewards. So from the monthly one, from the weekly one, the monthly one, and the quarterly one, I only get to choose one out of this list, but this is the array that I can choose from. A weekend away, doing some kind of psychic mediumship or hypnosis experience. Maybe I'll buy a course, maybe I'll buy some new equipment for my business, so perhaps a new camera. I'll go on a retreat experience, or maybe I'll buy a package of something that I really want to learn, which at the moment would be piano. So maybe I'll buy 10 piano lessons. So that's my quarterly reward that I get to choose from for myself. Now, if I meet my 11,000 creation points quota for the year, I get to choose from one of my yearly rewards, which are a trip to Costa Rica, which I really have been wanting to do for the longest time, a trip to Europe, so maybe to Galicia or the Azores, again a couple of places that I've really wanted to go for a long time, going on a skiing trip, maybe going to France for a World War II tour, which I've wanted to do for a really long time, some kind of pilgrimage, so maybe in Peru, or the Camino Trail in Spain is another thing that I've really wanted to do, or going for a super long trip in Scotland. So when I get to the end of the year, if I meet my 11,000 creation points quota, that will be one of those rewards, will be the thing that I treat myself to. How am I keeping track of all of this gamified creation that I'm engaging in? I have a spreadsheet where I take each week the points down from my board, which I showed you earlier, and I put them into this spreadsheet, and it's got, I mean, it's definitely pretty basic, but it tallies out all of the points that I'm earning, and it shows wherever I'm falling behind or if I'm getting ahead, and it just basically cumulatively it basically keeps adding up all of the points that I've scored so far and adds them all together, and then at a certain point at the end of the year I'm going to see what the total is, and I'll see whether I've reached my quota. But obviously I've got my weekly rewards, my monthly rewards, my quarterly rewards to keep, you know, they're like little treats that keep me going, so that I can feel motivated to keep going. Now I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, you know, like why are you treating yourself, and almost you know, if you're a proper entrepreneur and you've made it and you can just do this stuff all the time and you can bask in it and you can just be rolling around in the money. And for me, yes, I can see how that might be really nice for some people, but I actually found from reflecting on my 2021 that I seem to enjoy and get a lot more pleasure out of celebrations when I feel like I've hit a milestone, or I've kind of surpassed an expectation or some kind of goal that I've created for myself, if I'm just continuously kind of cloying myself in rewards, I find that I stop enjoying them, I start becoming ungrateful, I start losing motivation. So actually it is kind of like setting myself up for this like Pavlovian way of like behaving, but for some reason I find that it really helps me keep moving and keep creating and keep motivated. So if you're similar to me, that you just find that you numb out a bit when you're just overdoing it, then this way of creating may really help you. Now, obviously, because this is a total experiment, I foresee that there may be some issues, which maybe I'll do a later video on about how I've overcome those. But the first one being that maybe 11,000 creation points is actually a bit too high, and I may still burn out from that. I don't know, it's a bit of an experiment, so not quite sure how I handled it. I'm not sure about changing the rules of the game halfway through. Maybe we'll see like how much of a stretch it feels like, so that might be a problem. We'll see how we go. Obviously the points that I chose was like a best guess, but maybe there's a better way of kind of measuring the gamification than what I've created. What I found as well is that it's really hard to stick to this when I go away and I come outside of my normal routine, because for example I went to a shamanic retreat for 5 days last week, and because it's a very private thing, we don't really take our phone out at all. I just found it really hard to actually post anything or even think about posting anything. So that may, you know, maybe I need to take account of these one-off events or like red herrings that appear throughout the year, so that I don't feel that continuous pressure, like I've always got leeway somewhere in there. I feel like maybe it might be kind of hard to keep transferring the data from the whiteboard into the spreadsheet, but I really like having the whiteboard, because for me it feels like I'm really manually engaging with the process, and I don't know, it just makes it a bit more real and tangible for me, and it's like, yay, I get to write something in my little box. I don't know, it sounds really like cheesy, but I find that really helpful. But I may find that actually transferring that information over onto the spreadsheet might start getting a bit confusing. So I don't know, we'll see. So all of this is a bit of an experiment. So far I have found it really useful and quite playful, so let's see how it goes. And I hope that you found this useful. If you plan on gamifying your 2022 and your business and your creation, do let me know. I'd also like to know what your queen bee role is, if it is conversion focused content creation, or maybe it's something totally different. How might you gamify that? That would be really interesting for us to come up in the comments with how we might actually lean into this way of creating, so that we're actually succeeding even more in our goals and our business, and we're having fun at the same time, because who doesn't like a good game? Thank you so much for tuning into this gamification video, and I will see you in the next one.